On June 14th, 2007, our lives changed forever.
I couldn't believe that Chris or Kim did this. I thought maybe it was a carjacking or a mugging.
But the media pointed to Chris right away because he was the only survivor.
Every article started out accusing him of killing his wife and kids. The media was 100% biased. They already had him guilty. The prosecution put on this big show with these horrific scenes from the crime, and Chris was not seeing the same pictures. He had monitors in front of him, but they were blank. And so the jury thought he was seeing the pictures of the crime scene and not reacting to them. When he listened to his lawyer and didn't have any responses, they said, well, the guy's cold and heartless. Chris's attorneys told us not to speak to the media.
We were told to fly under the radar and not share our opinions or our thoughts. Since we did not get to make comments,
We were just as guilty as he was.
it's been many years that we have been quiet.
We are very grateful for the opportunity to meet and talk to Dr. Phil. It is important for people to hear Christopher's story. Now it's time for Chris to come home.
We never got a chance to talk to Chris about this tragedy. After this event occurred, we brought Chris home to our house, and he stayed with us for approximately 9 days before the police took him away.
I never really directly asked Chris what happened that day or what happened in the car. He was so much in shock that we figured that we were going to have him home and that he would not be arrested, and when he come out of the shell, we could find out then.
In all the times we have gone and visited Chris, or letters or emails, we have never broached the subject.
We didn't want to put the pressure on him to open up, and we always felt he was innocent, and he didn't do it.
Tell me, at this point, how are you two doing about all of this? As a father of two sons, I can't even imagine what it must be like to have your son locked up for all of this time and no hope of anything changing, and believing and knowing in your heart that the wrong man is in jail, that he's innocent, and you all believe 100% to the core of your soul that he did not do this crime.
That's correct. We believe 100% from day one that he did not do this.
And you agree?
Yes, sir.
And most parents would. Most parents believe in their child, so you're certainly not objective about that. But you say you received a call from a reporter asking if Chris and Kim had marital issues, right? They were looking to see if this was an extension of some domestic violence, some issues, some problems that would explain how this had happened.
Well, the reporter asked me if Chris and Kim got along well together. Mm-hmm. How did they get well along together? And
this was before you knew what had happened, right?
I did not know this had
happened. They were baiting you when they said this.
They were, and I was just happy that somebody was talking about my kids. And I, just started talking like a mom, proud mom, and then I started thinking about this and say, oh, maybe I should find out where this is going to be used. And she says, oh, haven't you heard? 4 of them are dead. And she was talking about my family.
That's how you learned of it. You had no idea.
That is how I found out.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What did you think when you heard that? Did you believe it?
Part of me kind of said, no way, this can't be true. But the other part said, I don't have any information, so it could be.
Right. How did she tell you what she had learned?
Yes, she did. And we didn't know who the lone survivor was at that time. I tried Chris's cell many times. I tried Kimberly's cell also. I ended up calling his work. He took a vacation day that day. So we had no way of getting a hold of him or anything like that. So after that, we tried going to the police.
Eventually, it was confirmed that this had happened, and Chris's position is that this was a murder-suicide, that she shot each of the children in the back seat 2 times, and then herself under the chin. Was there any reason that you would have thought, believed, predicted, or feared that your daughter-in-law would do something like this?
No, there was no suggestion of that. She'd always been a great mom, and she got along with her family pretty darn well. But I just couldn't believe it, no.
Me either. I mean, like Gail said, we got along with Kim very well, and we knew she was under some stress from graduating college and moving into a new house and getting the kids in school and everything like that. But you know, I originally believed it was a carjacking or something else gone bad.
So you knew your son didn't do it because you knew that he wasn't capable of that because of what you knew about him, and you thought the same thing about her, that this just wasn't.
Correct.
So how did you ultimately wrap your head around this? How did you square this up in your mind? Because I know that you had to, at some point, reconcile that this had in fact happened, that your grandchildren were dead, that she was dead. How did you explain this to yourselves?
I actually don't think we have explained it to ourselves.
You still haven't been able to make sense of it.
No. We understand more now.
And what is it you understand?
Well, we understand that our heart was true, and that Kimberly might have been having some reactions to her medication.
And she was on medication that has some profound side effects, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And those side effects could be severe mood swings, paranoia, aggression, things that could explain this kind of behavior in rare form. I mean, it doesn't happen
No, it doesn't
to
happen
everybody
often.
that takes it, obviously, or it wouldn't be on the market, but it is known, it is listed as creating a kind of ideation that would explain what happened here.
Yes.
Right.
Now, Kim had written an email to Chris about her mental state, and this was on May 24th of that same year. And she said, the doctor, we won't use the name, thinks that with stopping the migraine medication, not the Topamax, but the other one, will also help stop my anxiety. I told him that you had noticed, and I had noticed, a big personality change and anxiety change, and that I was lethargic, tired all the time. So this was something that isn't just what we call a post hoc explanation. This isn't something that's just manufactured after the fact as an explanation. This was a topic of conversation between them during this time frame, that they were talking about the medications and the effect it was having on her and her moods at the time.
I believe it was on their minds, but we had visited them in April around Easter. And then after that, we went on a Jeep Jamboree with Chris and Kim and Pierre and I. And they had not mentioned anything. We did have a little flare-up because she got upset that there was no Wi-Fi in the little town we were in, and we had to drive quite a distance so she could make sure her college paper was not late.
What did you see personality-wise with her?
Something that she threw a tantrum, and that was just not Kimberly.
Uncharacteristic of what you've seen
Very
before.
uncharacteristic.
How volatile did it get?
She was pretty high-pitched, screaming at Chris for not being able to provide the Wi-Fi that her computer needed to send her paper.
Yelling, screaming?
Yes, yelling, screaming, yes.
Unhinged at that moment?
Yes,
Okay.
she was.
We do have evidence that the children had referred to not wanting to bring friends around and things because she had shown some of this behavior and kind of flown off the handle and been unpredictable. Were you aware of that?
Not until we started cleaning out the house did we realize that there was problems.
Okay.
Their little girl came up to the door and asked to come in, and she says, this is the first time I've ever been in this house. And she was supposedly Abby's best friend.
You never ask your son what happened that morning. You never ask him if he did this, didn't do this. Did you ever just straight up point blank ask him what the hell went on the side of the road?
No. When we found him in the hotel after the police let him go at 2 a.m. in the morning in hospital gowns and bloody bandages, he was just in total shock. He was just not there. He just said he lost everything and there was nothing left to live for. When we brought him home, he was the same. He was just a shell. And I didn't feel the need to ask him because we believed that he didn't do it.
And he was interrogated for 20 hours in 2 days, correct?
20 hours in one day.
In the first day, it was 20 hours?
They brought him from the scene to the hospital, took his clothes, put him in back-to-back hospital gowns, treated his wounds, immediately brought him back to the police station and interrogated him from 9:30 in the morning till 2:30 at that night.
And then he went to the hotel. Then they interrogated him again the next day.
Correct.
It's June 2007, and private investigator Christopher Vaughn is dropping major coin for private dances and drinks.
The prosecution brought up the gentlemen's clubs. Okay, Chris was there 2, maybe 3 times, but they blew it way out of proportion.
Chris never asked for any favors from the ladies at the Gentlemen's Club. He never received a lap dance or anything else. All they did is talk.
Chris's going to the gentlemen's clubs had nothing to do with this trial.
The prosecution based their case on all motive, but it was all lies.
Well, let's talk about that some. I said that this case did not grab national headlines because the Drew Peterson case had grabbed national headlines and was in the courtroom right across the hallway from this case, and it had gotten traction, so it kind of pushed this out of the headlines, but not locally. That media fried him up from day one, correct?
That is correct.
You began to find out some things that you didn't know. You had sent a lot of gifts, Christmas cards and things like that to the children. After the fact, you found a lot of those unopened, correct? They had never gotten to the children.
That is correct. They were Christmas presents. We were cleaning out the house, my sister and I and Pierre, and I opened the closet, and it's a large closet. And up on the top was tucked in 5 of the gifts that we had sent the children. They were unopened Christmas presents. They never got them. They never knew we cared enough about to send them.
Did you ask Chris about that?
Chris said he didn't really know what was in any closet in the house. He had his office, and that was his stuff. So he didn't know anything about the presents.
And how did you interpret that? So it wasn't him, according to him. He didn't know about it, so by extension, he didn't take those and withhold them from the children. So it must have been her. Why do you think she would do that?
I was at a complete loss as to why they were there. I never withheld any gifts from children, from grandparents. I assumed that she wouldn't either, and I didn't understand why she did that.
He wrote you a letter. What was your reaction when you read that?
It was terrible. But at the same time, he was telling us what we pretty much already knew, just how it happened. So yeah, it was another terrible day. But then we started thinking about it, and he poured his soul into that letter to let us know what had happened.
What do you think he means when he says, I'm to blame. I made her do this. I'm responsible. I drove her to this.
Well, they were pretty open in what they did, so she probably knew that he had visited the strip clubs. She didn't really like it when he traveled, and that was his job, traveling, so she was on her own a lot. That wasn't good.
The letter gave us the answers of what happened and put together a lot of pieces of the puzzle that we didn't know before. It was a shock, no doubt about it, but it confirmed what we believed all along. I guess when Chris lost his entire family, you can't put yourself in his position, but he totally blames himself for what happened. Maybe not how it happened or what led up to it, but because everybody's gone, he is a soft-hearted person throughout his life, and to lose his entire family in that short of time just tore him up.
So when the interrogators concluded, this guy's lying, they were right, just for the wrong reasons. They thought he was lying about one thing when he was actually lying about something else, but he was lying. When he said, I don't remember, I don't know, they didn't believe him, and they were right. He did remember. They just thought he was lying about shooting them when he was lying about not wanting to say what happened.
At the time he was interrogated, he was such a zombie or such in shock. And like you said, he talked about his family still being alive. It wasn't till 10, 12 hours into the interrogation that he finally started referring to them in the past tense. Mm-hmm. So did he remember everything that happened right then and there? I don't believe so. But then he came, he felt so guilty about all of this for all of these years that he was willing to accept his punishment.
Shortly before this all happened, Kimberly was prescribed a cocktail of medications, nortriptyline and Topamax. For Topamax, one of the warnings is if you're feeling anxiety or a change of personality to contact your physician. Well, 2 weeks before this happened, Kim, in an email to her husband, described exactly that. Topamax can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, and violence. That does give credence that this was a murder-suicide committed by Kimberly. The blood on the seatbelt became a critical piece of evidence for the prosecution. It became their theory that seatbelt had been buckled at the time Kim was shot and that she bled over that seatbelt. But when they did the DNA testing and discovered it was not her blood, but Chris's blood, there's this mystery as how his blood got on that seatbelt. Then, a little over a year ago, Chris writes a 5-page letter to his parents explaining what happened. This is the most important part of the letter, which explains how his blood got on the seatbelt. I thought to drive the truck. Kim was slumped, so I tried to buckle her. My hand shook badly. I couldn't buckle the belt. So, working with actors, I was able to recreate what happened in that vehicle based on Chris's letter.
I see her shaking. Look away. And give up.
We know from our demonstration that her left arm is blocking the path of the latch. And then he lets go of the seatbelt. But all of those movements are consistent where he's bleeding onto that seatbelt strap and there's a large saturation stain of blood. That's completely consistent with what he said happened. I think this crime scene reconstruction provides newly discovered evidence that was not available at the time of trial, which is the standard, to get him a new trial and vacate the conviction.
Well, after Bill Clutter took apart the state's case and methodically put together a forensic theory of innocence, criminal defense attorney Jed Stone became interested in Chris's case, and Bill is joining us and Jed is joining us virtually. Jed, thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you, Dr. Phil, for allowing the defense to tell their story of innocence.
Well, that's what I really want to do, is hear this part of the story, and we're going to talk to Bill in some detail and look at this reconstruction and have you walk us through it in a minute. Jed, in your opinion, from a legal standpoint, what went wrong with Chris's trial? And first off, should there ever have been an indictment given some of the inconsistencies with the grand jury?
We know that the grand jurors were told by a prosecutor and a police officer witness that the blood on the seatbelt was the blood of Kim's. And we know that not only was that wrong, we know that they knew it was wrong because a DNA expert had told the prosecution that that blood belonged to Mr. Vaughn. Now that's deeply troubling. It's wrong to lie. Additionally, every piece of scientific evidence, what I would call immutable, unchangeable facts, documented by the forensics, the science of the case, leads to the inescapable conclusion that this was a suicide by Miss Vaughn after the murder of her children and the shooting of her husband. My client is innocent, and we have the duty of presenting those facts to a court or to the governor or to wherever we can to get this man out of prison and back to his parents. He is an innocent man.
Do you believe that you have, with the work that you've done, established reasonable doubt from a forensic standpoint here? Do you believe that what you've put together reaches the critical mass of reasonable doubt?
Yeah, our crime scene reconstruction provides new evidence that wasn't available at the time of trial. And it would have made a difference in the outcome of the jury verdict, so yes.
I am convinced that there is evidence of actual innocence, that Mr. Vaughn is not guilty of the murder of his children or the murder of his wife, and that the prosecution misled the jury, resulting in an unreliable verdict, and we have to have our second day in court.
Tomorrow, Bill will do a reenactment of the crime based on Chris's recent letter to his parents, where he reveals a step-by-step version of what he says happened that early morning on June 14th, 2007. Bill says it all makes sense now, and he's going to show us why he believes Chris did not murder his family.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phil. Convicted for killing his wife and children.
Jurors say Vaughn is a murdering sociopath.
But is he guilty?
They believe he must have staged the crime scene
That after shooting her, he reached over here.
to make it look like she shot the kids.
Or innocent?
There's some smeared blood here.
They're saying that this is new evidence in terms of whose blood was on that seatbelt.
All new Dr. Phil exclusive. That's tomorrow.
Plus, we'll hear from the former assistant state's attorney who believes Chris is right where he belongs. If you love true crime, you do not want to miss tomorrow. I want to thank all of my guests today. If you want more information about today's episode, log on to drphil.com. You can head over to my Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and tell me what you think happened to Chris' family. Was it a murder, or was it a murder-suicide?
Was their son wrongly convicted?
Life in prison for murdering his wife and children.
His parents break their silence.
Chris wrote you a letter explaining what took place.
It gave us the answers that we didn't know before.
New Dr. Phil exclusive. Check your local listings.